first one is that I need to get the steering at least working. With that said, the axle I'm doing now is not approved. I'm starting with getting the middle done, and you can see me doing a D-shaped configuration here. And now I'm making the groove for the screw itself. I need to, and I have already ordered parts, because I'm not allowed to do some of the welding that I did in the axle, like I did it. And the material also needs to be approved if you're going to weld anything. Now I'm attaching this small thing here. This is the D end that will be attached, and doing that I do spot welds, through welds, hole welds, and I'm drilling 4 holes. And this is basically how you do it when you're doing it for the approved way as well. It's just that I don't have any splines that goes to the D contact yet, and I'm waiting for that one. So my new axle will actually be made in lathe directly. And here I'm testing it out, and it worked out. The bearing itself are big, they are huge actually, but that was what I could get quickly and easily. This is a 20mm ones, and I start with making the brackets for them. And of course a lot of angle grinding. I have still not bought any tool to cut the steel with, except for my angle grinder. Marking out where I should drill the holes. And starting with a smaller drill first. Those ones will be mounted with M12, so those are fairly oversized, but I had those laying around. And some cleaning afterwards. I'm splitting the pieces in half again because I did weld them together. It makes it a little bit easier to do multiple pieces or brackets at once. And here you can see me mounting them, and that's because I'm going to weld the brackets to the chassis later on. Here I'm cutting the actual axle itself because it was a bit too long. Spot welding the actual bearings to the frame with the axle attached to it. Another bracket that will hold it all together. This one will sit in an angle, so I cut up. There's a lot of triangulation in this car. I'm spot welding most of the things with the MIG welder. I'm only MIG welding the ones that are 90 degrees and different stuff like that, because I don't want any weld to stick out, and therefore I use TIG weld for that. It takes longer time, but I think it looks nicer to have TIG welded stuff. Testing the steering, and the play that you can hear is actually me not having tightened it together. And I'm making sure that I have no play that can be felt and that everything is very, very even, and it actually is. So I think this will work out great. The gear shifter mount, I'm not happy with the current one because, as you can see, I need to screw it in and out in a very strange angle. So I remove the old one. And removing all the angles and the brackets as well. And cleaning everything up for the new thing. Cutting everything away. Unfortunately, I lost some footage here because I didn't see that the camera died on me. but I will show you how it looks in the end. So if we take a look at the car, you will see the new bracket is actually mounted with 2 screws from the top instead. And the nuts itself are welded on the underside. I'm not sure I'm going to use this setup. I'm thinking of actually buying or building a new one. We'll see about that. It might be the 3rd version. This is the 2nd version already. More brackets, in this case for the steering assembly, because currently it's just hanging basically in the air. I still need to go through so the steering is actually 100% accurate and correctly set up, but I need some tools for that, like the laser and stuff. I'm making sure that it sits tight onto the actual bracket that is hanging there, and just welding this in place. There will be a lot more regarding this setup in the future, but I need to have the coolers here first, because they will sit in front or behind this one actually. Testing it, and it's a lot stiffer now. Before this actually I can move it back and forth in sideways, and this makes it possible for me to test out. A lot of cleaning everywhere. You know, TIG welding is not the easiest thing, especially when you have gear or have steel that have been standing still for many years. Rust and particles are on them, and it makes it horrible to TIG weld some parts. Therefore, a lot of cleaning before I start, and even though that, I could not weld everything with a TIG. I actually had to do some parts with a MIG weld anyways. But for instance, this one worked just fine. Even more parts that will make the car better. In this case, I'm boxing up everything that relates to the frame in the front, to the steering and everything. You need to have boxing on them, and I'm going to add a boxing part on the top of everything here. Potentially I need to add something on the underside as well, but I'm not sure yet. Making sure it actually sits correctly. And more cleaning before I start the TIG welding process. And here you can see me do even more boxing. And it's rather thin metal when I do this boxing, but I think it is thick enough. It's 2 mm. So we'll see about that. Mounting the A-pillars back. And now I'm actually also attaching the brake calipers as well. And this is just to make sure that I have everything in place. So the brake caliper is from the Volvo 240. It's 4 pistons. Thank you for watching. Let's talk a little bit about what we have done so far in this video. It was a long time ago since I worked with this car, and therefore I had to start over on some of the elements. Some of the elements that you have seen today is actually the things that I have done before. First of all, I did redo the seating once more. So that right seat, the driver's seat, is actually remade, the positioning and the guides itself. and I'm a lot happier now. What I also have done is welded everything up in the front here, so all the joints going around the steering is actually now welded into place. Every one that I can reach without turning it over, because some of the joints are easier to weld upside down, but I will do them later on. I added the calipers as well, and I did add all the shims that should be inside here in one way or another. It's not shimmed up for the future, but I have everything there except lock nuts. That's the thing that is missing now, but I will not add those until it is finalized. I did do a mock-up of the steering as well. As you saw, I added one of the middle shafts here. This one is not approved. It doesn't matter what I do with it, because I am not allowed to weld until this one here, and I will order new stuff for this one. But it do work, and I'm pretty happy with it. It do turn as it should. It's a little bit of a disadvantage to have 4 joints like that, but on the other hand it is approved, so as long as it works, it will work, and it gives me a little bit more clearing to the turbo. So I will do that for now, and I know a lot of people have done it as well. I also re-welded the gear stick itself, the holder for the gear stick, because I was not happy with that either. And I did some minor work in front here that I wasn't happy with. So this is basically startup. Other things I have done is I have ordered a bunch of stuff. New battery, material to the tank, material to the bottom, material to the brakes in terms of hoses and stuff like that. I ordered some parts for exhaust as well. That's not 100% clear. I need some more money to do that, because it do cost a lot to build this machine. All the gears, since I'm not only using second-hand things, I'm actually using new things as well. And that's because I do want it to be a pretty good machine, so to say. I did mount a little bit of things on the engine to make that go better. Some of the nuts and everything to the parts that holds the engine in place are in place as well, just so I know that I have everything that's needed. In the next video, depending a little bit on what will come first, either we start with the cooling part, the intercooler, the water cooler and the oil cooler. I am waiting for the water cooler itself. I did order one, so that one is on its go. Or we will actually take a look at the work with the brakes, or we will do something else. We'll see a little bit about that. I will spend a lot more time in the coming weeks on this machine, because we need to get somewhere, so it's actually time to bring this up. And it has been a blast to work those 2 last days with this machine. And I think I have come rather far actually, though everything takes